Hello again. As you can see, back in Suffolk, yes, you can see the bright lights. I don't have a studio yet. I haven't made it big just yet. So we'll make do with the sound, the audio, my phone camera, and so on like that until I get picked up by the Sidemen or something like that. Yeah, we're going to keep it on like this. Fine. Cool. So, week with Will. It's about a week and a half or so. The previous chat I would have had would have been whilst I was in Bristol. I finished off a bit of work a little bit early, created a time-spaced window to be able to actually catch up, get things done. So we'll try and get a football video out. I do have a script. I need to write it up, and then we'll give it a go from there. So for the time being, hold on to this one, and I will try and get something out to you, football related, as soon as possible. Now, continuing on from where we were, my Thursday, I suppose because I would have recorded this on a Wednesday. Thursday was sort of not knowing what was happening, what was going on. I did get an additional bit of work from my manager, considering I was down there. The hotel wasn't actually refundable. Managed to get what was a day's worth of work done in half a day, and so needed to just wanted to know what to do. Didn't plan on hanging about. Decided, you know what, we're going to drive back. We're going to get done. We've got done. Create the extra day. Tried to get a refund on the hotel. Wasn't booked as such to which we could do that. So yeah, it is what it is. But I'd preferred to have come back, seen my cat, slept in my own bed. I just readjusted to everything back here, which obviously I managed to do. So I got back, didn't really do too much within the evening. It was a case of just trying to process some of the data, or at least sort of get the data onto the system, and then just resting up, having had a long drive, having had a very proactive morning. So then that would have led to the Friday, which did inevitably lead to trying to catch up with gym work, as well as just sort of being in the office again to sort of process those 7 or 8 sort of jobs for the Bristol client. This is so not solely just sort of the basic topographical surveys sort of for this site, for this sort of specification. There were additional things the clients in themselves required. So, for example, curb lines, we sort of predominantly just decided to take a shot sort of on the bottom and on the top. Instead, we've got to sort of do bottom, top, and back of the curbstone. Additional extra little things, which when you have to do over and over again, adding that extra sort of few seconds here and there can add up. But it's sort of being able to be flexible with the job specification, is sometimes some jobs are just like that. I mean, generally speaking, our job spec at work usually covers a whole host of things. Didn't necessarily in this situation. 10-meter grid as well, which is by the by, not really changing too much of my approach to how I go about and do things. What the other thing, or the other tricky thing, which sort of I wanted to sort of avoid, was doing a tin model. Now, this is essentially creating a model from the 3D information from your survey, sort of using triangles. Yes, that's where the T comes involved. Sort of triangle, sort of intersecting network. So it creates triangles, so then it can create a model, an actual 3D model of the area to which has been surveyed. Something I'm not necessarily familiar with. Not something that we do on a regular basis. I've done it once before, so I needed to get a bit of research in on that and how to work around doing that. However, for the weekend, I absolutely ran myself ragged looking after my niece and nephew. My nephew, who is about 4-ish, basically like a Duracell bunny, doesn't stop running around, very proactive, just needs to be constantly just sort of, you need to give them something to do, is just running around, just energy. And it's just, I don't necessarily envy parents looking after children of that age when they're sort of boundless energy. You don't really know what to do with them, whether it's sort of trying to outline particular activities or something like that to keep them preoccupied. I tried to do so with walks, scooter rides, with trips to the park, things like that, just to try and make things a bit easier for the kids, I suppose. I think they sort of prefer the ability of having a bit more sort of structure, as well as that the slight downside, unfortunately, when it came to the babysitting, was sort of getting an overtired 4-year-old who sort of becomes slightly less and less agreeable on how to do things and how to go about doing things, which is not ideal. So you have to learn, unfortunately, to stand your ground in this situation. If you're going to scratch your knee, I'm going to have a look at, make sure you're fine. If you're going to sit and sulk about it, I'm just going to walk away, because I need to sort of have some sort of power dynamic, I suppose, in that situation of being able to look after them. Maybe sort of the potential parenting style for the future. Who knows? Yeah. Then besides that, sort of within the evenings of those Saturdays and Sundays, it was essentially still just gym catch up, just catching up, because having been away in Bristol, I didn't do much in the way of running, much in the way of gym. On the Sunday, I managed to do gym on the Saturday, and I did a 7 or 8k run on the Sunday, just trying to be proactive, not needing to sort of maintain a certain level of fitness for the 10k run, which I have done a 10k a couple of weeks ago, but it's not something I've necessarily maintained or built on. I think sort of doing the odd 5k here and there has been good for building up fitness and endurance, but I think over a long stretch it might become a bit more of a push. So we're going to see on that one. So maybe a 10k tomorrow. We'll see if I can find a nice podcast or something, just something to preoccupy my mind while sort of running and going, because it's never necessarily about pace. It's the ability to keep going without sort of stopping, to sort of have that mental fortitude in some ways, because I'm not an athlete as much as I can sort of boast and brag about being active and going to the gym and doing these things. I'm not an athlete, and I'm not necessarily the strongest runner in the world, and so you need to keep working at it. You need to sort of figure out how best to sort of approach training and development for sort of these runs. So once I get past this 10k hurdle, the 10k event, I am then having to look at, okay, well, I've got to keep going, setting up potential goals and achievements. So I suppose the next one, maybe I've slightly jumped ahead of this one, is trying to get what was my peak or best, or match my best sort of park run sort of time, or 5k time, which I think is about 26.5 minutes. Yeah, so that's my aim going forward, is to catch up with that, and then maybe just sort of keep half an eye on those sort of longer distances. I'm not gonna go for a half marathon. I know a lot of people in running groups and park runs and things like that, they've done that, and they're more local events, and I'm becoming more aware of, I guess, runners. I see them a lot more. Maybe I'm just noticing them as becoming part of their community, I suppose. I don't know. So beyond that, sort of continuing on, I did start the Monday with a run to try and catch up on the running side of things. So it's just a nice sort of 5k to start the week, to kick on. We've just been office, gym, continuing on with those multiple topos, having to help direct sort of several colleagues who didn't necessarily have many things to do, trying to get them to assist me, just sort of help the process, as it were, which is very good and helpful. Is it sort of training for them on their part? So fingers crossed, it's a mutual sort of benefit, helping me, training and developing myself. I'm obviously there to help, and and so it's mutually beneficial. I suppose the one downside is I don't necessarily be able to come get in my work zone, my work headspace, where I can just earphones in, get music, get podcast, and just zone in on the work. I'm someone that can get easily distracted, so I really want to get into that sort of zone. I can't necessarily do that when helping other people, so maybe it's me being a bit sort of selfish and horrible in that regard. But that's beneficial in the long run, that aim, and I know that. And people work very flexible hours within our office, in the fact that they predominantly start earlier and finish earlier. So then I have those couple of hours when finished, where I can sort of continue the regular work day. I mean, I can start at the same time as them. My work day is still going to be wrapping up at 5:30. Nothing's going to change on that regard. It's just sort of too ingrained into my head to not do something like that. So my Tuesday in itself was another very active one where couldn't go for the run, so I went to the gym on the Tuesday morning, and I think it was sort of I think it was legs, which might not necessarily have been the strongest thing to have done on the Tuesday, having had a run on them Monday. But it all needs to get done, all needs to move forward. Fair enough. So continuation, pretty much exactly the same sort of style days. Had no real great sort of change in how things have been done, how things are going. And then football on the Tuesdays, which I obviously don't necessarily mention as much because I haven't played in 2-3 weeks, so I felt a bit rusty. Got caught very cold on the first game and got caught quite literally square in the face right there. A little bit dazed and confused. A bit disappointed we lost the game. But, oh well. These things, that happens, and then we'll bounce back, won the second game. You win some, you lose some. That's how it sort of is. Sort of hoping to be a bit sharper sort of in the next couple of weeks. And then it would have been Wednesday within the office space. Once again, continuation. Gym as well. I mean, these days it's just sort of, these are what you call sort of like grind days, where you just need to just get your head down, get going, get cracking, catch up with things, get things done. My Thursday was essentially a bit of a break from that. Thankfully, it was a quick trip to site in order to make sure some of my colleagues' they managed to get their work done and sorted. So I managed to do the areas that I was permitted into very early on. So I went back to the office, continued just plodding along with everything. Wrapped that up. Ended up going to the cinema as I realised that I was just grinding a bit too much. Just gym, run. So big old bag of pick a mix. Go to the cinema to go watch Mickey 17. Sort of a new film with Robert Pattinson that's been out for, I suppose, a couple of weeks. I always need to sometimes try and justify using my cinema card. Did in this situation. It was okay. It was good enough. It's a bit different. It's a bit odd. It's a bit strange. It originally, I think, it's based off of I think it's like a comic or book called like Mickey 7, with the idea of sort of an expendable, sort of someone that is given the tasks of like the really dangerous tasks, the ones that are most at risk of sort of death, and so they can copy you and just take you back out and get you to do those horrible things that, let's be honest, no one else really wants to do. No, it was entertaining. It's like, overall, I haven't had as many naff films this year as opposed to last year. Maybe I'm being going to be a bit more particular about the films that I go and see. I mean, out of the films I suppose I've seen this year, I think I probably prefer. This is probably about on par with the Captain America, but the Captain America has sort of the Captain America's only sort of on par because of the Marvelness. I suppose, sort of elevating it. I think this is probably a bit more of an interesting script, I'll be honest with you. Just a bit more fun, just a bit silly. Yeah, I'll say more than that. I mean, the Thursday in itself was also, thankfully, sort of all my TV shows and series are coming out on the Thursday or have wrapped up on the Thursday. The finale for Invincible, absolutely incredible. I love that series so much. I know full well that there are 3-4 more seasons on the way, which I'm so thankful for, as this one has been absolutely incredible, just amazing. I can't talk about it highly enough. Anyone that sort of even vaguely into their superheroes, watch it. You will love it. All of it. Loads. Just so good. Sort of catching up with the Daredevil as well. I need to catch up with Reacher, I think. I've not been quite as sold and sort of sucked into that one. I don't know whether it's with that, it always feels like it's a bit more about the action scenes rather than the script and the writing, I suppose, in some respects. So yeah, I mean, I'll get around to that. I mean, it's always good to have a couple of things sort of in the background I can sort of flip onto whenever. And I suppose Reacher is sort of one that's easy enough to watch, I suppose. It's not one that I always have to overly concentrate on. So that's all good. That's pretty fine. Friday, another office day. This wraps up my Bristol work. This helps me catch up with everything at the port. This was a very, very early start to the day because I had to leave very early on in that day as well, as I had a friend's wake who passed away in December, which got very, very dragged out, which I don't understand the reasoning and the circumstances personally, but I think it's quite horrible that people can sort of treat relatives and that can treat sort of people in that manner without as much self-respect potentially. That's a bit too much of a personal thing to potentially go over here, so I'll leave that one for now. So my Saturday, obviously today, has been a very productive one. Parkrun and Felixstowe, second fastest one on Strava, so still got a way to go in that regards. That one was a bit of a more complicated one because that has a lot of people. There's about 500-600 people that do that. I was probably somewhere in the middle at the end of it. But it's sort of a narrow boardway where you're trying to, or boardwalk where you're trying to sort of, well, the waterfront it's a narrow footpath to just run through, and you've got hundreds of people, and you just sort of and to start quite slowly, and you're trying to to try and wait to sort of weave and intercept and go around someone. I'm not going to say that I'm the speediest person in the world, but obviously everyone had very mixed abilities, and people did the same with me. Maybe it's sort of why I might prefer a bit more of an open space parking, but it's good in some respects because the terrain is fine because it's all along a footpath. It's not going to be slippery. You're not going to fall over, and it's sort of very flat terrain. So I might try and look at next couple of weeks when I do go to park runs to maybe just mix up, do a few different ones, sort of find one that I like. Because I did the Great Cornwall one recently, sort of getting back into doing park runs. This Felixstowe one, I believe there's a Kesgrave one. There was a Chantry one which would have been perfect for me, but that's obviously got cancelled due to the conditions available there. So we'll see on that one. Managed to then squeeze out a gym session, so my shoulders absolutely ache and absolutely horrible. Managed to sort out a haircut, just back and sides. So slightly ready for my friend's stag do in a couple of weeks, going over to Portugal. Probably won't be able to record this there, but I'll be sure to talk about it in depth a bit more when it comes around. It's just been a case of housework today. Otherwise, bins, cat litter, hoovering, scrubbing toilets, sinks, baths, wiping things down, washing machine or dishwasher, washing machine, all this other stuff. There's potentially a run for going to the supermarket as well, try and squeeze everything out in that regards, and then, well, I'd say have less work to do on Sunday, but there's still inevitably work to do on Sunday, unfortunately. But that'll tie us over for now. Sort of thank you very much everyone for listening. I've sort of in my last couple of weeks, I've gone back into more sort of teenagey music, or my teenagey sort of emo-y, punky sort of stage, uh, which does include a band that, yes, I have seen live for those that do get wound up when I say that. Skyway Avenue by We the Kings. Very, very fun band to see live. Just a good bop. It's just lots of energy, positivity, just very catchy lyrics, just very easy to become one of those earworms, as it were, that always get stuck in your head. But it's a good one. It's a good one, trust me. So I'll see you all later. Bye for now.